Hello, I'm Rebecca Flaherty, and today we're working on the first pattern from my Spring-Summer 2026 geometric series. We're creating a flattened outline chevron pattern. It's an intermediate level design and really fun for playing around with the colour combinations. If you want to use the same colours that I have, you can find the palette in the Pattern Maker's Toolkit. Let's get started. So we're going to start here in a 3600 pixel square canvas as always, and it's 300 dpi. The first thing we're going to do is fill this layer with a colour. So I'm going to tap on the layer and choose fill layer. It doesn't matter which colour you use to do this. I'm eventually going to be changing it to this light colour here, but that's not going to show up so well when I'm recording. So if you want to use the ultimate colour you'll be using for the gaps in between, then go ahead and use that now. And you can get this palette over in the Pattern Maker's Toolkit. So then I'm going to tap transform. I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees, but before I do that I'm going to make sure that I've got my interpolation method set to bilinear there. So I'm going to rotate 45 degrees and then tap fit to canvas. Then I'm going to tap this arrow to come off there and then back on again, so we've got this selected as a box rather than sideways as a diamond. Then I'm going to tap on this node and I'm going to make it a 900 pixel square diamond and center that in the middle there. I'm going to duplicate this layer and I'll invert the colour on this one so we can see the difference between the two. Then I'll grab a different colour. I'm going to add a layer and fill this one with colour. Tap transform and I'm going to make a rectangle, so I want to unlink this ratio and I'm going to make this one 900 pixels wide and 200 pixels tall. And the first one I'm going to snap down there so that the top of it is lined up with the middle of the canvas and that it's centered. Then I'm going to duplicate this, tap transform, and I'm going to bring this one and snap it to the top of that diamond there. I'll just make this semi-transparent so you can see where it is there. And then this one here, the one that's solid, I'm going to bring that down underneath. I'll alpha lock that one and I'll make that the same color as my bottom diamond. And then I'm going to merge those two together. I'll hide this one so you can see. So I've got a shape that looks like that and I'm going to merge those two together. Then what we want to do is bring this layer down and snap the top of that diamond to the bottom of that rectangle. So we've moved it 200 pixels down. Then we're going to use this shape to cut out of this one here. So we're going to tap on this layer and tap select. Then with that still selected, I can hide this one and hide that one just so you can see what's going on. Then we're going to tap onto this layer here and tap transform, and we're going to drag that selection out of that shape there. And you can just drag it off the edge of the canvas, and then we're left with this chevron shape here, which should be 900 pixels by 650. I'm going to flatten this out a little bit and change the angles on this one. So I'm going to unlink the ratio and I'm going to make it 400 pixels tall to make that more flat shape there. So that's our initial chevron shape. We're going to use this to build out a row of zigzags now. So I'm going to duplicate this one, tap transform and snap it over here to the edge of this one. Duplicate again and snap it here, and it should be snap into the edge there, and then we're going to do the same going that way. You can see here as I'm transforming it looks like there's a little gap there, but as soon as I come off transform you can see that gap there disappears. It's just how it looks in the moment when we're transforming, and when we zoom in you can see there's not a gap there. Then what we can do is pinch and merge all of this together in one layer, and we've got our row of zigzags there. What I'm going to do now is change the canvas height so that this can fit evenly in there. The reason we needed to start off in this size canvas is because we needed it to be a square canvas in order to make a diamond, but now we've made that, we can change the canvas to the height we'll be using. So I'm going to come up here and tap on the spanner, tap on canvas, go to crop and resize, tap on settings. I'm going to turn snapping on and I want to keep the width at 3600, but I'm going to change the height to 3200. Then tap done, and we can center this if we want to, like that. but centering it doesn't matter too much because I'm going to select this layer and bring this right up and snap it to the top there. You can either delete or group and hide those for now. And then I'm going to duplicate this layer and snap it down to the bottom of itself and just do that all the way down the canvas. And every time I do this, I'm checking that I've got those orange lines so I know it's going all the way to the edge. And then that last one, hopefully, should snap to the top of the last box and the bottom of your canvas, and then you know that everything has been even along the way. Now you can either pinch and merge all those together, or you can group them and collapse the group like that, depending on how you're doing for layers, of course. Then we're going to add a layer and we're going to make some vertical bars to go on this now. So we'll fill the layer again, tap transform, tap up here, and we are going to unlink the ratio and we're going to make the width on this 100 pixels. The height can stay at 3200, and I'm going to bring this one and snap it into the middle there like that. Then we can duplicate it and snap one right over to the edge and cut it in half like that, and then do the same on the other side. So we'll cut it in half at this edge like that. And then we need to put some markers in so that we can also repeat this on the top and bottom of all those zigzags. So let's come underneath here, fill the layer. I'll invert the colours on this one, and let's also bring the opacity down. Tap transform, and we're going to make this one 900 pixels wide because that's the width of one of these chevrons. So let's make this 900 pixels wide, and first of all we can centre this on the canvas, and then this thicker bar there, we can just duplicate that and snap it so that the middle of this bar snaps to the edge of that box there. And then we'll do another one on this side. Then we can grab this box and snap it to the edge of the canvas. Be careful that you're snapping it to the edge of the canvas, not to the edge of that thin strip there. It needs to go all the way to the edge of the canvas like that. Then you can duplicate more of the 100 pixels wide bars and put one in the middle of that there, and then another one on the edge of it. Then grab your marker, snap it all the way to this edge. Make sure that you are right at the edge there. And then do the same over this side. There you go, then you can put this into that group there, so that's also hidden. And then all of these vertical bars can be merged onto one layer then. And what we're going to do now is erase parts of these so that we get that chevron effect. So the easiest way to do this is grab your eraser and pick a row to start on. So I'm going to start on this one that's one row down from the top, and we'll erase this so we've got a row of complete V's. My eraser's a little bit big there. So don't go too far up so that you erase the next one up like that. Just erase these middle bits there and go across the middle so that you've got a complete row of V's there. Then we're going to go down 2 rows and do the same. So we'll miss this one and then we'll do this one underneath. Miss that one and then go and do this one underneath. Skip a row and do the next one underneath again. Then go back to the row you started on and then go one across. So on this one we're going to have arrows pointing upwards, and then we're going to work our way across doing these, and then we need to do these ones on the edge as well for this row. And then we skip this one and then go down again and erase this middle part. Also the ones on the edge, and work our way across this row so that we've got a row of upward pointing arrows. Then we miss the next row down and work on this one, and again erase these so we've got a row of upward pointing arrows again. This is the part where it can get a little confusing, so what I would recommend doing is duplicating this before you start, just so that if you realise you've erased the wrong bit, you could always go back and start again. I think we're doing okay, so we've just done this row of arrows, miss this row, and then it's this one. We want these to be up arrows, so it's again this middle bit, and it would also be this bit on the edge. And then the trickiest bit of all is the top row here, so it should be this one in the middle we need to erase. There, and at the edge. So this one, whoops, did a bit too much there. That one, and then the edge one. Hopefully we've got that right. I'll duplicate this group so I've still got that to go back to, just in case I have gone wrong, and I'm gonna live dangerously and merge all of this together now. What we're going to do now is just do a quick test to make sure that this is tiling properly. So I will copy all, then do the same again and paste. Let's just invert the colours on this, tap transform, and I'm just going to check that this is tiling properly first before I start adding any colour to it. So that looks like all of those are correct and the ones on the side were correct, so we can just get rid of that. And then we get to do the fun part, which is adding some colour to this. So first of all, I'm going to alpha lock this and make it the colour that I intended it to be, which is this light greyish yellow. So I'll fill that layer. I'll turn the background colour off so that we can see what I'm doing. I'll add a layer underneath, and then I'm going to tap on this and make it a reference layer. And then we're going to fill the layer underneath with colour. You can use any colours you like to use to do this. I'm going to use a random mix of colours from this. So I'll start with this one and just do a few random fills with this colour and just try and fill this, getting an even mix of colours. You can take your time to do this, and I am using a reference image off camera of one that I've already made of this, so I know where to put each colour. When you get to an edge piece that's cut in half, make sure that you use the same colour on each side, and likewise for the top and bottom. Once you think you have an even balance of colours there, we're ready to test the tile and see how it's working in repeat. So we're going to swipe down with 3 fingers and copy all. Come up to the top here, swipe down again and paste. Then we're going to drag this node up into the middle, and you should see 1800 and 1600 there. I'm going to add a layer underneath, just fill it with random colour, and then duplicate this one, drag half of it over there, and hopefully all your edge colours should be matching up there. Zoom in just to make sure that everything's looking okay on that scene. Then you can merge those together, duplicate and drag that one down there, and hopefully all those colours should match up too. So that is looking okay like that. Before we finish up, I just want to show you a couple of cool things you can do with this pattern. If you duplicate this layer, tap transform and flip it vertically, then change the blend mode on this, you can come up with some really cool effects on here which might help you generate some ideas for new colour palettes. For example, some of these colours look really cool together, and some of these as well. And that's one of the reasons I like working with these geometric patterns and just having a play around with colours and blend modes. It's not necessarily because I want to make the pattern to sell, it's because doing this kind of unlocks that creative part of your brain and helps you come up with ideas for other patterns. So yeah, don't forget to play around with this and see what different colour palette ideas you can come up with. Let's just get rid of this one for now, and that is this pattern finished.